If this is your first time here, this channel exists for something simple, to help you fall asleep while learning something real, something grounded in science, something that quietly matters. We don't rush here. We don't raise our voices. We let the science unfold slowly, the way your nervous system prefers it. Tonight's idea is both deeply biological and deeply personal. It might explain why you feel tired but wired, why your shoulders stay slightly tense, why switching off at night can feel harder than it should, even when nothing is wrong, even when the room is quiet, even when you are technically safe. Tonight, we're exploring what happens inside your body when it doesn't feel safe, and what changes the moment it finally does. This episode is called, Your Body is Waiting for a Signal That It's Safe. So get comfortable. Let your weight sink a little deeper into whatever is holding you right now. If you have a blanket, pull it closer. And as we move through this together, you don't need to try to relax. Just listen. Your body already knows what to do. It may simply be waiting for the right signal. Welcome back to Deep Science Sleep. Somewhere outside right now, the world is still going. A car passes on a road 3 blocks away. A plane blinks across the sky, carrying people you will never meet, over cities you may never visit. Somewhere, a door opens and closes. Somewhere, a dog hears something in the dark and lifts its head, listens, then rests it again. The world does not stop, not even at night, not even for a moment. And yet here you are, inside whatever room holds you right now, removed from most of it. The ceiling above you is fixed in place. The walls stand without effort. The floor has been supporting everything in this room all day, and it will continue to do so tonight without needing anything from you. The weight of the air in the room is just over 14 pounds per square inch, pressing gently against every surface of your skin. But you don't feel it as pressure. You feel it, when you think about it, as something close to a soft enclosure. The atmosphere holds you without gripping you. Outside, if you were to listen carefully, you might hear the kind of sounds that make up the private texture of your particular corner of the world. The distant hum of a city, or the high, thin whistle of wind across countryside, or the creak of a building settling into its foundations after a day of absorbing heat. These sounds are not threats. They are the ambient music of a world that continues to turn even as you lie still. And your body knows this room. It has been here before. Even if this is a new place, even if you are sleeping somewhere unfamiliar tonight, the cells of your body have lived inside this body for years. Some of them for decades, and they know what night feels like. They know what horizontal feels like. They know the drop in environmental temperature that tends to accompany the darkness. They feel it. They register it. Something in the deep architecture of your physiology leans, even slightly, toward what nighttime means. In the darkening of the evening hours, your brain begins releasing a hormone called melatonin. The pineal gland, a tiny structure about the size of a pea buried near the center of your brain, begins its slow, careful work as the light fades. Melatonin doesn't knock you out. It doesn't operate like a switch. It is more like a tide. It is the chemical language your body uses to say, the day is over. The light is going. It is time to move towards sleep. Melatonin levels in the blood rise slowly after dark and typically peak in the middle of the night, somewhere between 2 and 4 in the morning for most people. This is ancient information. This is biology that was old before any human being ever had a word for it. And yet, for so many of us, even with the dark room and the horizontal body and the melatonin rising in the blood, sleep doesn't come easily. We lie here in what should be safety, in what looks like rest, and something inside us hasn't quite received the message. Something inside us is still waiting. The body doesn't automatically rest just because the external conditions are right. The body doesn't simply trust the dark. It has to be told in a language older than words that it is safe to let go, that the danger has passed, that the night is quiet not because the threat is hiding, but because there is no threat to hide from. Tonight, we are going to explore what that language is, what safety means biologically speaking, what it costs your body when it doesn't receive that signal, and what begins to happen quietly, incrementally across every organ and every cell when your nervous system finally hears what it has been listening for all along. The answer is not something you have to do. It is not a practice or a technique or a discipline, though those things can help. It is something your body already knows how to receive. You were born knowing how to receive it. The question is only whether the conditions are right, whether the signal is clear enough, and whether there is enough quiet in the noise to let it through. Think for a moment about the dimension of time. The universe is approximately 13.8 billion years old. Life on Earth has existed for perhaps 3.8 billion years. Complex nervous systems, systems capable of something like neuroception, capable of evaluating their environments and responding to threat, have existed for hundreds of millions of years. The human species, in something resembling its current form, has existed for perhaps 300,000 years. Agriculture, which allowed humans to stop being nomadic and to sleep in the same place night after night, is about 10,000 years old. Electric light, the thing that most profoundly disrupted the ancient, evolved relationship between darkness and safety, has been widely available for less than 200 years. Your nervous system is carrying the weight of all that time. The machinery in your brainstem that responds to darkness, to stillness, to the sounds and temperatures of night, was refined over millions of years in environments that bear very little resemblance to the room you are in right now. The rooms we sleep in now are insulated from weather, maintained at constant temperatures, shielded from predators, filled with devices that emit light and noise at all hours. We live in what is, from the perspective of the human nervous system's evolutionary history, an extraordinarily strange set of conditions. And yet, the ancient machinery is still there. The pineal gland is still producing melatonin in the dark. The vagus nerve is still listening for cues of safety. The amygdala is still scanning. The heart is still responding to every breath you take. The cells of your body are still using the hours of darkness to do the work that darkness has always been for. You are a very old creature in a very new world. And somewhere in the dialogue between your ancient biology and your modern life, the signal that your body has always been waiting for is sometimes harder to receive than it should be. Not because you are broken, not because something has gone wrong with you specifically, but because the world has changed faster than biology can comfortably accommodate. Tonight, we are going to close some of that gap. Not by changing anything about your circumstances, that is not what this kind of listening does, but by giving your nervous system the closest approximation we can offer to the signal it is looking for. The warm voice, the slow pace, the darkness, the stillness, the knowledge delivered through the language of the body rather than the language of the mind, that in this room, in this hour, It is safe to let go. Right now, in this room, with your body resting in whatever position it has found, we are going to trace the path of that signal together. All the way from the ancient structures in your brainstem, through the long wandering nerve that travels from your skull to your colon, through the chemistry of fear and the chemistry of calm, to the moment when your body decides, not in words, not in thoughts, but in something deeper and older than either, that right now, in this place, it is allowed to rest. It is allowed to heal. It is allowed to be still. We begin where the body begins. Not in the mind, not in the heart, but in the nervous system, that vast, intricate, humming network that has been learning and listening and reacting every second of your life, long before you were ever aware of it. There is a question your body never stops asking. It is not a question that arrives in language. It never forms itself into words. You will not hear it as a voice. And yet it is always there, running in the background of everything you do, every moment of every hour of every day of your entire life. The question is simple, and it is this: is it safe here? Not. Is it pleasant? Not. Am I comfortable? Not. Am I happy? Those are questions the conscious mind asks, later with words and opinions and comparisons. The body's question is older and more urgent than any of those. It is a question about survival. Is this environment safe? Are the people around me safe? Are the sounds I am hearing safe? Is the quality of the light I am seeing safe? Is what I am feeling inside my own body, the state of my organs, the rhythm of my heart, the tension in my muscles, is any of that telling me that something is wrong? Your body asks this question and receives answers to it continuously. Not once per second, not once per heartbeat, but in what researchers describe as a near-instantaneous, ongoing scanning process that operates entirely below the threshold of your conscious awareness. You are not doing this. You cannot turn it off. You could not name the moment it began because it began before you were born. In the womb, in the early weeks of your nervous system's development, your body was already beginning to learn the fundamental distinction between safe and not safe. This process has a name. Neuroscientist Dr. Stephen Porges, who spent decades at the University of Illinois at Chicago and later Indiana University, coined a term for it in 2004. He called it neuroception. He defined it as the neural process by which the nervous system detects safety, danger, or life threat without involving conscious awareness. Not perception, neuroception. The neuro prefix tells us that this is happening in the nervous system itself, below the level of thought, below the level of interpretation. Your body doesn't wait for your brain to decide whether something is a threat. It decides first and then informs the rest of you afterward. This is why, when something startles you in a dark hallway, your heart has already begun racing before you have finished thinking about what made the sound. The body moved first. It always moves first. And this is also why, conversely, something in you can relax when you enter a space that feels safe. Not because you have logically assessed the safety of the room, but because your nervous system has already made its evaluation and communicated the result through a cascade of biological events that you experience as a loosening, a softening, a very subtle sense that you can be here. Think about the last time you felt genuinely, completely safe. Not just temporarily distracted, not just numb, not just exhausted, actually safe. Maybe it was in a particular room or with a particular person, or in a specific hour of the day when the light was falling in a certain way and the sounds around you were exactly right and something in your chest just settled. You could breathe a little deeper without trying to. Your jaw, which you hadn't realized was held tight, softened. Your shoulders dropped almost imperceptibly. Your eyes might have softened their focus, going slightly wider and a little less vigilant without any deliberate effort on your part. That wasn't a thought. That was a biological event. Something in your nervous system received information through your eyes, your ears, the temperature of the air, the quality of the faces around you, the sounds in the space, the internal sensations of your own body, and it determined that this environment was safe. And in response, it began a process of shifting your physiology. It lowered the guard. It let some of the tension release. It began, quietly and without fanfare, to redirect resources away from defense and toward restoration. Your body was made to do this. This is its deepest wish. Not for stimulation, not for achievement, not for excitement. Its deepest wish is to feel safe, because feeling safe is the only condition under which it can do all the other things it is meant to do. Growing, healing, digesting, connecting, resting. All of these processes require safety as their foundation. Without that signal, without that biological confirmation that the threat has passed and the environment can be trusted, the body cannot fully commit to any of them. This is the core of what we are exploring tonight. Not the idea of relaxation as a technique. Not a breathing exercise, although we will talk about breathing. Not a mantra, not a visualization, not a sleep hygiene tip. What we are exploring is something more fundamental. The actual biology of what happens when the human body moves from a state of guarded, defensive alertness into a state of genuine, physiological safety. And why, for so many people living in the modern world, that transition is harder than it should be. And why, in the quiet of a night like this one, it becomes possible. It is worth thinking for a moment about what the word safety actually means to the body. Because in the context of the nervous system, it does not mean what we might think it means when we use the word in ordinary conversation. When we use safe in everyday language, we often mean something cognitive, a rational assessment that no immediate physical threat is present. We look around, we see that the doors are locked and the neighborhood is quiet and the people we know are accounted for, and we tell ourselves, I am safe. But for the nervous system, this cognitive assessment is only part of the story, and for the autonomic nervous system, the older, deeper parts of it, it may not even be the most important part. The nervous system's assessment of safety is based primarily on sensory and physiological information. Not on what you think, but on what you feel. Not on what your reasoning mind concludes, but on what your body is receiving through its sensors. The sounds in the space, the temperature of the air, the quality of light, the rhythm of your own breathing, the texture of the surfaces touching your skin, the state of your gastrointestinal tract, the rate at which your heart is beating and how that rate is varying from beat to beat. All of this sensory data is being continuously integrated into a biological assessment of risk that operates faster than conscious thought and that shapes the state of your nervous system whether or not your rational mind agrees with the conclusion. This is why you can know intellectually that you are safe and still not feel safe. The two assessments, the cognitive and the physiological, are made by different systems. The cognitive assessment happens in the cortex, in the newer, more recently evolved parts of the brain. The physiological assessment happens in the brainstem and the deeper limbic structures, in parts of the brain that are far older and that have been performing this function for millions of years before anything resembling a cortex existed. And here is the critical asymmetry. The older, deeper systems have a much stronger influence on the newer ones than the reverse. Your amygdala can flood your cortex with alarm signals that override your capacity for rational thought. But your cortex cannot simply issue a command to your amygdala to stand down and have that command obeyed. The hierarchy of influence runs primarily from the bottom up, from the body to the brain, from the ancient to the modern, from the physiological to the cognitive. This is not a design flaw. This is a survival mechanism in the conditions under which human nervous systems evolved. Conditions in which the environment was often genuinely dangerous and in which the consequences of a missed threat were catastrophic and immediate. A system that could be rapidly overridden by rational deliberation would have been dangerously slow. The body needed to respond before the mind had finished thinking, and so it was built to do exactly that. The consequence in the modern world is that telling yourself to relax doesn't work very well, at least not directly. You cannot talk your amygdala into standing down. You cannot reason your cortisol levels into dropping. What you can do, what does work, what the science shows consistently and unambiguously, is provide the nervous system with the sensory inputs that it recognizes as safety signals. Slow down the breath. Reduce environmental stimulation. Expose yourself to warm, calm human voices or sounds. Let the body horizontal. Let the muscles release. Give the nervous system the data it needs to conclude on its own terms and through its own processes that the threat level is low enough to permit rest. Because here is the thing about your nervous system's question. Is it safe here? It is an honest question. It is not a manipulation. It is not anxiety or weakness or dysfunction. It is, in the most literal sense, your body doing its job. The trouble is not that your body asks the question. The trouble is when the answer it receives. For years, for decades, in environments where nothing is actually trying to hurt you, keeps coming back as, not yet. Wait, stay alert. Something might be wrong. Tonight, we are going to understand why that happens. And then, gently, quietly, we are going to understand what a different answer feels like. Let's talk about the nervous system, not in the way you might have encountered it in a biology textbook, as a diagram of nodes and pathways, with Latin names that feel impossibly distant from the actual experience of being a person. Let's talk about it the way it actually operates in your life. What it does and why it matters and what it means for how you feel right now, lying here in the dark. Your nervous system is, in the most basic sense, an information system. It receives data from the world and from inside your own body, processes that data, and sends out instructions that shape how you feel and how you respond. But unlike a computer, your nervous system does not process all information equally. It has priorities. It has a hierarchy. And at the very top of that hierarchy, above all other concerns, sits the question we have already identified. Is it safe? The autonomic nervous system, the part that operates without your conscious control, is divided into two primary branches that you have probably heard about, even if you have never thought too deeply about them. The first is the sympathetic nervous system. The second is the parasympathetic nervous system. These two systems work in balance with each other, and that balance is everything. The sympathetic nervous system is your accelerator. When it is activated, it readies your body for action. Your heart beats faster. Your lungs open wider. Blood flow is redirected from your organs of digestion and toward your large muscle groups, your legs, your arms, the muscles you would need to run or fight. Hormones surge through your bloodstream. Adrenaline, which is also called epinephrine, hits your system like a spark. Your senses sharpen. Your pupils dilate to let in more light. Time seems to slow in a strange, high-definition way. All of this happens in seconds, and it happens because your sympathetic nervous system has determined, correctly or not, that there is a threat that requires immediate physical response. This system saved your ancestors' lives over and over and over again for millions of years. When a predator was near, when a rival approached, when the environment suddenly turned hostile, the sympathetic nervous system's activation was the difference between life and death. It is a masterpiece of biological engineering, and in situations of genuine physical danger, it is exactly the right response. But the parasympathetic nervous system, this is the other side, the quieter side, the side we are most interested in tonight. The parasympathetic nervous system is your break, your rest, your restore. When it is active, it does the opposite of everything the sympathetic system does. It slows your heart. It deepens your breathing. It redirects blood flow back toward your organs of digestion and repair. It lowers your blood pressure. It allows your immune system to work more effectively. It supports the production of hormones associated with growth, with cellular repair, with the rebuilding of everything that gets worn down during the exertions of the day. When the parasympathetic system is in charge, your body is not trying to survive. It is trying to flourish. And at the heart of the parasympathetic nervous system, the star, the main character, the extraordinary nerve that makes most of this possible, is the vagus nerve. The name comes from the Latin word for wanderer, and it is a fitting name. The vagus nerve begins in the brainstem in a region called the medulla oblongata, and it travels down through your neck, through your chest, past your heart and lungs, and all the way down into your abdomen, sending branches to your stomach, your intestines, your liver, your spleen, your kidneys. It is the longest cranial nerve in the human body. It carries signals in both directions, from the brain down to the organs, yes, but also, and this is the part that surprises most people, from the organs back up to the brain. Approximately 80 to 90% of the fibers in the vagus nerve are afferent. That means they are sending information upward, from the body to the brain, not the other way around. Your gut is talking to your brain far more than your brain is talking to your gut. The state of your digestive system, your heart rate, the tension in your muscles, the position of your diaphragm, all of this information flows constantly upward through the vagus nerve, giving your brain a real-time report on what is happening inside you. This is the physical basis of what we call a gut feeling. It is not a metaphor. It is neuroscience. Now here is the part that Dr. Stephen Porges identified and named in his polyvagal theory, first published in 1995 and developed extensively since then. The vagus nerve is not one simple thing. It has two main branches, and they are not equivalent. The older branch, evolutionarily older, meaning it appeared earlier in the history of vertebrate life, is called the dorsal vagal complex. When this branch is activated, it produces immobilization, stillness. In animals, this is the freeze response, playing dead, shutting down, becoming unresponsive. In humans, this ancient circuit can produce a similar effect, a sense of collapse, of dissociation, of being unable to respond or engage with the world. You have probably encountered this state at some point, the paralysis of overwhelm, the blank numbness that settles over you when something is simply too much. The newer branch, newer in evolutionary terms, appearing more recently in the history of mammals, is called the ventral vagal complex. And this is the circuit we are most interested in tonight. The ventral vagal complex, when it is active, produces something that Dr. Porges describes as a safe state. A state in which the body is not defending itself, not shutting down, but genuinely, physiologically at rest. The heart beats with what scientists call high vagal tone, a quality of calm, rhythmic, efficient beating that is associated with good health, good emotional regulation, and good recovery from stress. The muscles of the face soften and become more expressive. The muscles of the middle ear tune themselves, according to Porges's theory, to better pick up the frequencies of human speech, making it easier to hear other people, easier to feel connected. Even the muscles involved in vocal prosody, the melody and warmth of the human voice, are influenced by this circuit. When the ventral vagal complex is active, you are not just calm. You are what polyvagal theory calls socially engaged. You are available for connection, for learning, for creativity, for the kind of deep listening that allows relationships to form and deepen. You can be fully present because the watchful, defensive, hypervigilant part of your nervous system has, for now, stood down. 3 circuits, then, arranged in a hierarchy. The newest, the ventral vagal system, is engaged first when safety is detected. When that fails, when the cues of safety are absent or overridden by signals of danger, the middle circuit comes online. The sympathetic nervous system driving mobilization, fight, or flight. And when even that is insufficient, when the threat is perceived as inescapable, unsurvivable, the oldest circuit, the dorsal vagal, takes over and drives the system into shutdown and collapse. This hierarchy, this progression from safety to mobilization to shutdown, is the fundamental operating logic of your nervous system. And understanding it changes everything. Because it means that when you cannot relax, when you cannot sleep, when you lie here awake in the dark feeling tense and alert for no reason you can name, your body is not broken. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It simply has not yet received the signal it is waiting for. Every moment of your life, even this one, even right now as you lie in the dark with your eyes closed or nearly closed and your breathing beginning to slow, your nervous system is scanning. It is scanning without your permission, without your direction, without any conscious effort on your part. It is scanning the sounds in the room and the temperature of the air and the quality of the light on the other side of your eyelids and the signals coming up from your stomach and your heart and your lungs. It is scanning the faces it has seen recently, remembering whether those faces were open and warm or tight and threatening. It is scanning the voices it has heard. Not the words exactly, but the prosody, the melody of those voices, whether they rose in tone or fell, whether they were even and warm or sharp and constricted. It is doing all of this in parallel at extraordinary speed, and it is forming a conclusion, not in words, not in thoughts, but in a biological state about whether this moment right now is safe or not. And based on that conclusion, it is either holding you in vigilance or beginning to release it. This is neuroception. And it is important to understand a few key things about it. The first is that neuroception is not perception. Perception involves consciousness. It involves your cortex, the wrinkled outer layer of your brain where your reasoning and language and awareness live. Neuroception happens below that level. It happens in the older, deeper structures of the brain, the amygdala, the brainstem, the hypothalamus, before the information ever reaches the cortex for you to interpret it consciously. By the time you think about whether something is dangerous, your nervous system has already decided and already begun responding. This is why you cannot simply tell yourself to relax and expect it to work. The part of the brain that needs to receive the safety signal is not the part that understands words. It understands sensory information. It understands the slow rhythm of a familiar voice. It understands the warmth of a body temperature that is slightly cooler than the day's heat. It understands darkness and stillness and the particular quality of silence that means nothing is moving, nothing is approaching, there is nothing that needs to be faced right now. The second important thing about neuroception is that it can be wrong. It is calibrated by experience, by the history of what has been dangerous and what has been safe in your particular life. If you grew up in an environment where threat was common, where safety was unreliable, where the people who were supposed to protect you were also sometimes the source of danger, then your neuroceptive system learned something important from that. It learned to set its threshold for detecting threat at a lower level. It learned to find danger in ambiguous situations, to interpret neutral faces as potentially hostile, to remain alert even in apparently safe environments because the definition of safe had never been reliable enough to fully trust. This calibration is not a flaw. It was, at the time, a form of adaptation. A nervous system that learned to stay alert in an unpredictable environment was doing exactly what nervous systems are meant to do. Learning from experience and adjusting the sensitivity of its threat detector accordingly. The tragedy is that this calibration can persist long after the original environment has changed. You might be in a safe room, in a safe relationship, in a safe life, and your nervous system is still scanning with the sensitivity it developed when none of those things were true. This is why, for many people, lying in bed at night is one of the most difficult times of all. The daytime has distractions. The daytime has movement, activity, screens, sounds, conversations, all of which provide an ongoing stream of sensory input that can, paradoxically, keep the threat detection system occupied enough that it doesn't become overwhelming. But at night, when the distractions fall away, when the body goes horizontal and the room goes quiet, the nervous system is left with itself, with whatever signals are coming up from the body, with whatever memories or worries or unresolved questions the mind begins to circulate in the absence of other things to attend to. And for a nervous system that has been running at a high level of vigilance, the quiet of night is not a relief. It is an opportunity for the scanning to become more thorough, for the signal-to-noise ratio to decrease, and the quiet itself to become a kind of amplifier. The third important thing about neuroception is that it sources its information from three distinct places. The first is the external environment, the sights and sounds and smells and temperatures and people around you. The second is the internal environment, the signals coming up from your own body, from your organs, from your gut. The third, and perhaps least discussed, is the environment of your relationships and social cues. The tones of the voices you hear, the expressions on the faces you see, the sense of whether you are connected or alone. All three of these sources are being weighted, combined, and evaluated continuously. And the conclusion that results from that evaluation determines your nervous system's current state. And through your nervous system's current state, your heart rate, your muscle tension, your capacity to sleep, your capacity to heal, your capacity to be fully yourself. It is worth understanding one more dimension of neuroception before we move on, because it is one that touches many people very directly without being widely understood. Neuroception is, in part, a learned system. The amygdala and the associated neural circuits that evaluate threat and safety are not purely hardwired at birth. They are shaped by experience, particularly early experience. This is because the human nervous system, unlike the nervous systems of many other species, completes a significant portion of its development outside the womb in the first years of life. A human infant is born with a relatively immature nervous system that continues to develop rapidly through childhood and adolescence, and even into early adulthood. During those early years of development, the nervous system is learning, with extraordinary sensitivity, what the world is like. Whether it is predictable or unpredictable, whether the people who care for it are reliably responsive or inconsistent, whether distress is typically met with comfort or with absence or with further distress, whether the environment is fundamentally trustworthy or fundamentally uncertain. This learning shapes the calibration of the threat detection system in ways that can persist for decades. A child who grows up in an environment of consistent warmth and reliable caregiving, whose nervous system learns through repeated experience that the world is reasonably predictable and that other people can be trusted, tends to develop what attachment researchers call secure attachment. Their neuroceptive system is calibrated at a moderate level of sensitivity. It activates when genuine threats are present and quiets when genuine safety is established. A child who grows up in an environment of inconsistency or unpredictability or genuine threat, whose nervous system never quite learns that safety can be trusted to last, may develop a neuroceptive system that is calibrated at a higher level of sensitivity, that finds potential threats in ambiguous signals, that cannot fully relax even in apparently safe environments, because safety has not been reliable enough to be fully believed. Neither of these outcomes is the child's fault. Neither represents a moral failing. Both represent a nervous system doing exactly what nervous systems are designed to do, learning from experience and calibrating accordingly. And both can change, slowly, through accumulated experiences of safety, through relationships that are warm and consistent, through environments that provide the sensory conditions of calm, through practices that engage the body's own safety signaling systems, through nights like this one, quiet, dark, slow, warm, that accumulate night after night into a growing evidence base that safety is real. This is not a quick process. It is not a process with a clearly defined endpoint, but it is real, and it is happening in every person who consistently chooses to create the conditions for rest. Every time you prioritize the conditions that allow your body to receive the safety signal, you are contributing to a recalibration that, over time, is neurologically genuine. This is not philosophy. This is physiology. This is the measurable, observable, recordable reality of what happens inside a human body every moment, in response to the question that never stops being asked. Is it safe here? Let's talk about what happens when the answer keeps coming back as no, or when it keeps coming back as maybe not. Stay alert. Don't relax. Be ready. This is the state that most people living in the modern world are in to some degree for much of their waking lives. And for some people, it is the state they never fully leave, even at night, even in sleep, even in what should be the most restorative hours of their existence. When your nervous system determines that the environment is dangerous or uncertain or potentially threatening, even without clear evidence of an actual threat, it activates the sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system. You have heard this described as the fight or flight response, and that phrase is accurate as far as it goes, but it doesn't fully capture what is actually happening in your body when this system is engaged. Your adrenal glands, which sit just above your kidneys like small triangular hats, release adrenaline, also called epinephrine, into your bloodstream. This happens fast, within seconds. Adrenaline causes your heart rate to increase, your blood vessels to constrict, your blood pressure to rise. It prepares the cardiovascular system for the demands of physical exertion. At almost the same time, a hormonal cascade is initiated that involves your hypothalamus, your pituitary gland, and your adrenal glands, a system known as the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. This system, when activated, results in the release of a different hormone, cortisol. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, and this description is somewhat misleading. Cortisol is not inherently dangerous or damaging. In appropriate doses and at appropriate times, cortisol does important and necessary work. It releases glucose from storage to provide quick energy to the muscles and brain. It helps modulate inflammation. It focuses attention. In the context of a genuine acute emergency, a physical threat, a high-stakes challenge, cortisol is exactly what you need. It sharpens you. It gets resources to where they are needed. The problem arises when the threat does not end. When the nervous system stays in a state of vigilance not for seconds or minutes, but for hours and days and weeks and months and years. This is chronic stress, and it is, according to the Mayo Clinic, an extraordinarily common feature of modern human life. When cortisol stays elevated for prolonged periods, it begins to have effects that are the opposite of helpful. It begins to suppress the immune system, making you more vulnerable to infection and illness. It begins to interfere with digestion, as the body redirects blood flow away from the digestive tract and toward the muscles. It disrupts sleep architecture. It suppresses the reproductive system and the growth hormone axis. It contributes over time to increased risk of cardiovascular disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and even some forms of cancer. Long-term exposure to high cortisol also has effects on the brain itself. The hippocampus, the region of the brain most associated with memory formation and spatial navigation, is particularly vulnerable to cortisol-induced damage. Studies have found that people with conditions involving chronically elevated cortisol, such as post-traumatic stress disorder, often show reduced hippocampal volume. The brain literally changes shape under the sustained pressure of a nervous system that never feels safe. But let's bring this closer to the ground. Let's think about what chronic threat state feels like in ordinary, everyday life. You know this feeling. You may not have named it this way, but you know it. It is the tightness that lives somewhere between your shoulders and your neck and that you carry around all day without noticing until someone mentions it, or until you try to stretch and realize how immovable that region of your body has become. It is the shallow breathing, the kind where your chest moves slightly with each breath but your belly barely rises, where you are consistently taking in less air than you could, and less air than you need because your muscles have been slightly contracted for so long that they have forgotten how to fully release. It is the way you startle at small sounds that other people seem not to notice. The way a door closing too loudly sends a jolt through your system that takes a few seconds to subside. The way a particular tone of voice, even in a television program, even from a stranger, can make your stomach clench. It is the tiredness that doesn't go away even after sleep. The sense that you have rested but not recovered. That your body has been through the hours of night without completing whatever process the night was supposed to accomplish. This last point is particularly relevant for sleep. When the body is in a state of sympathetic activation, when cortisol and adrenaline are circulating at higher than usual levels, the quality of sleep is compromised even when sleep technically occurs. The nervous system continues its scanning. The amygdala, which we will discuss in more detail in a moment, remains relatively active. The body does not fully enter the deep, slow wave stages of sleep where the most important restoration occurs. It stays instead in lighter stages, ready to respond to a threat at any moment. And the tragedy of this is that sleep is, among other things, one of the most potent recovery mechanisms the body possesses. When sleep is degraded, the systems that needed to be repaired during the night remain unrepaired. The immune cells that needed to be replenished have fewer hours in which to be produced. The growth hormone that drives tissue repair and cellular regeneration, which is released primarily during deep slow-wave sleep, has less opportunity to do its work. The glymphatic system, the brain's waste-clearing mechanism, which activates most powerfully during sleep, has less time to remove the metabolic byproducts that accumulate in the brain during the waking hours. It is worth pausing here for a moment to really let the scope of this sink in. We are not talking about feeling a little tired. We are talking about a cascade of physiological consequences that touch nearly every system in the human body. The chronic stress state, the sustained sympathetic activation, the elevated cortisol, the suppression of parasympathetic function, has been implicated in the development of cardiovascular disease, in which the sustained constriction of blood vessels and the increased clotting tendency associated with high adrenaline states contributes to atherosclerosis and hypertension. It has been implicated in metabolic disorders, including type 2 diabetes, through cortisol's effects on insulin sensitivity and glucose regulation. It suppresses the reproductive system through cortisol's interference with the production of sex hormones. In people who experience it during childhood and adolescence, during the critical periods of development when the brain and body are still forming, chronic stress has been shown to alter the architecture of the nervous system in ways that can be measured decades later. And yet, all of this is reversible in the sense that matters most. Not in the sense that the past can be undone, it cannot. Not in the sense that the body will not carry marks from what it has been through, it will. But in the sense that the nervous system retains, throughout the lifespan, a remarkable capacity to update, to learn, to register new data, to revise its threat assessment based on accumulating evidence of safety, to begin gradually and often imperfectly but genuinely to heal. The scientific term for this capacity is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change its structure and function in response to experience. It is not unlimited. It is more robust in younger brains than in older ones, though it persists throughout life. It is more easily activated in states of safety than in states of threat, which is one more reason why creating the conditions for safety matters so much. But it is real. The brain that has been shaped by a history of stress can be shaped, subsequently, by a history of safety. Slowly, imperfectly, with many setbacks and reversals, but ultimately in a direction that is genuinely, measurably different. Every night of genuine, deep rest is a small contribution to this process. Every hour in which the body receives sufficient signals of safety to allow it to lower its guard is a data point in favor of the revision. It is not dramatic. It is not the kind of change you can see or measure easily from the inside. But accumulated over weeks and months and years, it is real. The nervous system that was once calibrated for constant vigilance can become, If it receives enough of the right signals in enough of the right environments, a nervous system that trusts the dark. A body that is not sleeping deeply is a body that is not fully healing. And a body that is not fully healing is a body under greater strain, which means a nervous system under greater strain, which means a threat detection system that is running at a higher sensitivity, which makes deep sleep even harder to achieve. This is what chronic vigilance looks like at the level of physiology. It is a loop. It is a self-reinforcing cycle where the inability to feel safe prevents the rest that would help the body become more resilient, and the absence of that resilience makes it harder to feel safe. Understanding this loop is not meant to be discouraging. It is meant to be illuminating. Because once you see the loop clearly, you can begin to understand where it can be interrupted. Deep inside the temporal lobe of your brain, tucked beneath the cortex on each side, are two small structures that are shaped roughly like almonds. Their Latin name means just that, almond. These are the amygdalae, and they are among the most studied, most discussed, and most misunderstood structures in the entire field of neuroscience. The amygdala's most famous function is threat detection. When sensory information enters the brain, when you hear a sound, see a face, smell something unexpected, feel something unfamiliar, some of that information takes what researchers call the low road directly to the amygdala. This low road bypasses the cortex entirely. It sends information to the amygdala before the cortex has had a chance to process what is happening. And the amygdala, receiving this raw, uninterpreted sensory data, makes a rapid assessment, threat or no threat. If the amygdala determines that the incoming information represents a potential threat, it fires off a signal like a biological alarm bell that triggers the cascade of sympathetic nervous system activation we have just been discussing. Adrenaline, cortisol, increased heart rate and blood pressure, heightened alertness. All of this happens before your conscious mind has fully registered what it was that alarmed you. The body responds before the thought arrives. Under normal circumstances, the cortex, the rational, language-using, context-aware part of your brain, then evaluates the situation and, if appropriate, sends inhibitory signals back to the amygdala. Says, in essence, I've assessed this. The sound was the building settling. The face was a stranger who looks like someone from your past. The smell was something burning in the neighbor's garden. The alarm was premature. Stand down. When this feedback loop works well, when the cortex is appropriately regulating the amygdala, the threat response activates quickly when needed and resolves quickly when the threat is absent or revealed to be illusory. The system is responsive but not chronically reactive. But in people who have experienced significant stress or trauma, or who have lived for extended periods in environments of genuine unpredictability or threat, this regulation can become disrupted. Research using functional MRI imaging has shown that people with conditions like post-traumatic stress disorder show greater amygdala activation in response to stimuli that would not trigger such a response in people without the same history. And crucially, research has also shown that in chronically stressed individuals, the amygdala can remain in a state of elevated connectivity and readiness even at rest, even in the absence of any current threat. This is what hypervigilance looks like at the neurological level. The amygdala is still on high alert. The alarm is still ringing, not loudly, not in a way that would be identified as a panic response, but steadily in the background at a low but continuous volume. Like a car alarm 3 streets away that you have been hearing for so long you have almost stopped noticing it, but that has been quietly exhausting you all day. The cost of this sustained amygdala activation is significant. Research shows that elevated amygdala activity is associated with higher basal levels of cortisol and adrenaline, meaning the stress hormone system is idling at a higher level than it should be. It is associated with increased cardiovascular strain over time. It is associated with disrupted sleep, particularly disruption of the deep, slow-wave stages that are most important for physical repair. And it is associated in ways that neuroscience is still working to fully understand with a kind of generalized exhaustion, a tiredness that is not simply the product of too much physical exertion, but something deeper, the tiredness of a system that has been on guard for too long. Here is the crucial thing, though. The amygdala is not your enemy. The amygdala is trying to protect you. It is doing the job it was designed to do. It is simply doing it in an environment that may not require the level of protection it is providing. The amygdala learned its current level of sensitivity from your experience, from your history, from the environments and relationships that shaped your nervous system over your lifetime. It is working from the best information it has, and it is open to revision. The revision comes through safety signals. Not through reasoning, not through willpower, not through telling yourself that everything is fine. Through actual, experienced, embodied safety signals that reach the amygdala through the body, through the sensory channels it trusts. Slow, warm voices, soft, open facial expressions, dark, enclosed, quiet spaces, deep, slow breathing, the presence of warmth, stillness, the gradual, cumulative experience of being in a place where nothing bad happens. Over time, sometimes slowly, sometimes surprisingly quickly, the amygdala updates its assessment. The alarm turns down. The nervous system begins to learn a new baseline. And the body, sensing this change in the security level of the environment, begins to move toward the state it has been waiting patiently to inhabit. Imagine for a moment a lake in the early morning. The surface of the lake is glass. Not because there is no water beneath it, not because nothing is alive in the depths, but because there is no wind. The conditions are perfectly still. And in that stillness, the lake can do things it cannot do when it is disturbed. Light can reflect clearly off its surface. Sediment settles to the bottom. Fish can move through it without turbulence. The lake, in the calm, is not inactive. It is deeply, actively alive, but it is doing the kind of activity that requires stillness to perform. Your body, when it detects safety, is something like this. The shift doesn't happen all at once. It is not a switch that flips. It is a gradient, a gradual tilting of balance, from the sympathetic state toward the parasympathetic, from vigilance toward rest. And as that shift occurs, a cascade of biological events unfolds that is, in its quiet way, extraordinary. The heart rate slows, not dramatically, not to the point of faintness, but to a calmer, more efficient rhythm. The phenomenon known as heart rate variability, the natural variation in the time between each heartbeat, increases. This is a meaningful change. Higher heart rate variability is associated with greater parasympathetic activity, better emotional regulation, improved immune function, and lower risk of cardiovascular disease. It is, in a measurable sense, one of the signatures of a body that feels safe. The heart is not trying to be ready for exertion. It is doing its quiet, reliable work without urgency. Blood pressure drops slightly. The blood vessels that had been somewhat constricted by adrenaline begin to dilate. blood flow redistributes, moving back toward the organs that had been somewhat deprioritized during the state of vigilance. Your gastrointestinal tract, which slows or nearly stops when the sympathetic system is running the show, comes back online. The vagus nerve sends signals to your stomach and intestines, and they begin doing what they are meant to do. Digestive enzymes are released. Peristalsis, the rhythmic, muscular movement that propels food through the gut, resumes its careful, efficient work. If you've noticed that your digestion is better during calm periods and worse during anxious ones, this is the physiological reason why. Your gut was literally waiting for the all clear. Your immune system, which had been somewhat suppressed by the sustained presence of cortisol, begins to recover its full function. Immune cells that were being deprioritized in favor of fight or flight readiness return to their usual levels of activity. The body resumes making the kinds of repairs that had been deferred during the period of vigilance. Inflammatory processes that were being held in check or paradoxically, in some cases being amplified by chronic stress, begin to return toward balance. Growth hormone, which is suppressed by high cortisol levels, can be released more freely. And growth hormone, despite its somewhat misleading name, is not just about physical growth in the developmental sense. In adults, growth hormone is deeply involved in cellular repair, protein synthesis, the healing of tissues and muscles, the maintenance of bone density, the regulation of body composition. It is, in a very real sense, the hormone of restoration. And it is released most abundantly in adults during deep sleep, particularly during the first few hours of slow-wave sleep. A body that feels safe enough to sleep deeply is a body that can access this extraordinary restorative hormone. And then there is the prefrontal cortex. This is the region at the front of your brain, the part responsible for what we think of as higher reasoning, planning, perspective-taking, emotional regulation. Research consistently shows that when the sympathetic nervous system is highly activated, the function of the prefrontal cortex is reduced. The resources that would normally support careful, reflective, nuanced thinking are redirected. The brain becomes, in a sense, more reactive and less thoughtful. More amygdala, less cortex. But when safety is detected, when the parasympathetic system takes over, the prefrontal cortex reasserts itself. This function is restored. The capacity for nuanced thinking, for perspective, for compassion, for creativity, for the kind of open, curious, receptive mental state in which learning happens most naturally. All of this returns. This is why you can think more clearly after a rest. Why problems that felt intractable in the evening often look more manageable in the morning. Why the most creative thinking so often comes in the drowsy, liminal state between wakefulness and sleep, when the defensive mind has relaxed enough to let in something unexpected. Dr. Porges writes that feeling safe creates the neural platform for cooperative behaviors, for learning, creativity, appreciation of aesthetics, and even what he calls spirituality. This is a striking claim for a neuroscientist to make, but what he means by it is something grounded and precise. When the nervous system is not defending itself, when the threat detection system has stepped back, the entire cognitive and emotional architecture of the human mind becomes available in a way that it simply cannot be when it is running on high alert. The body, in safety, becomes more than the sum of its defenses. It becomes what it was actually built to be. You have already been introduced to the vagus nerve in broad terms. But it deserves a closer look, because the more you understand about this extraordinary structure, the more you begin to appreciate just how deeply connected everything in your body really is, and how central this one wandering nerve is to the experience of safety and rest. The vagus nerve exits the brainstem from a region called the medulla oblongata, and it immediately branches in two directions, one path leading down the left side of the body, the other down the right. The right vagus nerve contains, on average, about 105,000 individual nerve fibers. The left contains somewhat fewer, around 87,000. These numbers alone give some sense of the complexity involved. This is not a single wire, but a vast bundle of communication channels, each carrying its own specific stream of information. As the vagus nerve descends through the neck, it passes through or near the carotid artery and the internal jugular vein. It branches to the pharynx and larynx, the throat and voice box. This is why the voice changes when you are stressed or frightened. The muscles of the larynx, controlled in part by the vagus, tighten and narrow. The voice becomes higher, more strained, more flat. Conversely, when the vagus is active in its parasympathetic capacity, when the body feels safe, the voice tends to become lower, richer, more melodic. The prosody of speech, the warmth and rhythm in how words are delivered, is a direct expression of the state of the vagal system. This is why we can often tell immediately, from the sound of someone's voice alone before we have processed a single word, whether they are calm or frightened, welcoming or hostile. The vagus nerve continues into the chest, where it exerts its famous influence on the heart. It connects to the sinoatrial node, the heart's natural pacemaker, and through this connection, it regulates the heart's resting rate. If the vagus nerve were to stop functioning entirely, the heart would beat at around 100 beats per minute without any external regulation. It is the constant background activity of the vagus nerve that pulls that rate down to the calmer 60 to 80 beats per minute that most healthy adults experience at rest. The vagus nerve is, in the most literal sense, what keeps your heart calm. It then continues into the abdomen, sending branches to the esophagus, the stomach, the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, the small intestine, and the large intestine as far as the splenic flexure of the colon. It regulates digestion, stimulating smooth muscle contractions, promoting the release of digestive enzymes, encouraging the absorption of nutrients, plays a role in the inflammatory response. It is connected to the spleen, which is involved in immune regulation. Research published in major scientific journals has shown that the vagus nerve plays a role in what scientists call the inflammatory reflex, the body's ability to sense and regulate inflammation. Activation of the vagal system can reduce the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines, the molecular signals that drive inflammation, helping to keep the immune response appropriately calibrated. And then there are the 80 to 90% of vagal fibers that run upward from the body to the brain. This is the ongoing report that the body sends up to its central command. This is how the heart is beating. This is the state of the gut. This is the quality of breathing. This is whether the diaphragm is moving freely or is held tight. This continuous internal broadcast is what researchers sometimes call interoception, the sense of the interior state of one's own body. And interoception, it turns out, is deeply linked to emotional experience. The feeling of fear is not simply a thought. It is a physical sensation, a tightness in the chest, a dropping in the stomach, a constriction in the throat. The feeling of calm is also physical. A warmth in the chest, a loosening of the belly, a softening of the jaw. These physical sensations are the body's way of making its state available to the mind. When the vagus nerve is working well, when its tone is high, as researchers call it, the body is more resilient. It recovers from stress more quickly. The heart rate variability is higher. The inflammatory response is better calibrated. Sleep is deeper and more restorative. Emotional regulation is more flexible. Connection with others comes more easily. And vagal tone can be influenced, not overnight, not dramatically, but consistently and meaningfully, through practices that directly engage the vagal pathways. Slow, diaphragmatic breathing with a longer exhale than inhale is one of the most well-supported. During inhalation, the sympathetic nervous system briefly predominates and the heart rate rises slightly. During exhalation, the vagus nerve reasserts itself and the heart rate drops. Extending the exhale, making the outbreath longer than the in-breath, extends the period of vagal dominance within each breathing cycle. Over time, this shifts the balance of the autonomic nervous system toward greater parasympathetic activity. Research published in peer-reviewed journals has consistently demonstrated this effect. A 2022 meta-analysis reviewing 223 studies found that voluntary slow breathing reliably increases the parasympathetic control of the heart. A 2021 study published in Scientific Reports found that one session of deep, slow breathing significantly increased vagal tone and reduced state anxiety in both young and older adults. Prolonged expiratory breathing, where the exhale is longer than the inhale, has been shown to significantly activate parasympathetic nervous function and to suppress sympathetic dominance. This is why, in this moment, if you were to take a slow breath in through your nose, letting your belly rise, letting your chest expand, and then release it slowly through your mouth or nose, letting the exhale take perhaps twice as long as the inhale, you would be doing something that is measurable at the level of your autonomic nervous system. You would be sending a signal through the vagus nerve that shifts the balance slightly toward safety, slightly toward calm, slightly toward rest. Not because you decided to be calm, because you used the body's own language to tell it that calm was available. You can do that now if you like. There is no technique required. Simply let the next breath be slow. And when you release it, let it be even slower. No urgency. Just the slow, faithful rhythm of a body that is beginning to remember that it is allowed to rest. There is one more thing worth knowing about the breath before we let it carry us forward. The breath is unique among all the bodily functions regulated by the autonomic nervous system in that it is the one you can control. Your heart beats without your instruction. Your digestive system moves without your direction. Your immune cells do their work entirely outside your awareness. But breathing sits at the intersection of the voluntary and the involuntary. It happens automatically when you are not thinking about it. And it comes under conscious control the moment you choose to attend to it. This makes breathing, in a sense, the body's one accessible lever. The one place where the conscious mind and the ancient automatic body make direct contact. The one doorway through which the rational, thinking part of you can reach down into the older systems and offer them a signal. A slow, patient, deliberate signal that it is safe to ease off. Every slow breath you take is not just a physiological event. It is a conversation between the parts of you. A message sent downward through the vagus nerve, through the parasympathetic pathways, to the systems that have been running on high alert. The message is wordless. It does not reason. It does not explain. It simply demonstrates, in the body's own language, that the pace of things is slowing, that urgency is not required, that the next moment, like this one, is available to be inhabited at a gentler speed. And the body, your body, in its extraordinary and faithful way, receives that message. It begins to answer, slowly, imperfectly, with the particular hesitation of any system that has learned to be careful about trusting, but genuinely, measurably, in ways that happen in the cells of your heart muscle and the contractions of your gut and the chemistry of your bloodstream. This is where science and something softer than science converge. The research is real, the studies are published, the data is there, the physiological mechanisms are described in the language of biology and chemistry. And at the same time, what the research describes is something that people have known, in some wordless intuitive form, for as long as there have been people. That there is a quality of stillness that heals. That the body, given the right conditions, knows how to repair itself. That the night is not something to be survived, but something to be inhabited, fully, vulnerably, with all the extraordinary biological machinery of the human body engaged in exactly the work it was designed to do. You are in the right place for that now. This room, this dark, this slow pace of words that is itself a form of the signal your body has been waiting for. Let what is tense find its way towards softer. Let what is held begin to release. Not because you have decided to release it, but because the conditions for releasing it are present, and the body knows what to do with those conditions, and you are, right now, getting out of its way. There is another dimension to safety that we have not yet fully explored, and it is perhaps the most human dimension of all. Your nervous system does not only scan the physical environment for signs of threat or safety, it also scans the social environment, the faces around you, the voices in the space, the quality of the interactions you have had recently, whether you feel seen, known, connected, or invisible, isolated, disconnected. This is not a psychological observation about loneliness. It is a biological fact about how your nervous system assesses risk. And it involves a hormone that has been somewhat mythologized in popular culture, but that has a genuinely remarkable range of effects in the actual science. Oxytocin. Oxytocin is produced in a region of the hypothalamus called the paraventricular nucleus and released through the pituitary gland. Most people have heard of it in the context of childbirth and breastfeeding. It plays essential roles in both of those processes. It is also released during physical touch, during warm social interaction, during eye contact with someone you trust, during the sound of a calm and caring voice. It is even released, research suggests, when you simply think about someone you love. But oxytocin is not merely a bonding hormone in some abstract emotional sense. Its biological effects are specific and measurable. Research reviewed in major neuroscience journals shows that oxytocin reduces blood pressure. It lowers cortisol levels. It raises pain thresholds. It exerts what scientists describe as an anxiolytic-like effect, meaning it reduces anxiety by a mechanism that is pharmacologically similar to some anti-anxiety medications, though through a completely natural pathway. It promotes the healing of wounds. Research in animal models has shown that repeated oxytocin exposure can lower resting blood pressure by 10 to 20 millimeters of mercury, a significant reduction, and that these effects can persist for weeks after the oxytocin exposure has ended. In humans, Oxytocin appears to be released by what researchers call non-noxious sensory stimulation. Warmth, gentle touch, the specific quality of a human voice that is warm and low-pitched. Even certain kinds of light, even certain kinds of sound. And it is crucially released in the context of what Dr. Porges identified as the social engagement system, the ventral vagal complex and the muscles of the face and voice that, when active, signal safety to everyone in the vicinity. When you feel truly safe with another person, when you feel seen and known and not judged, your body releases oxytocin. And the release of oxytocin creates, at the cellular and physiological level, a state that is almost the direct opposite of the chronic stress state we have been describing. Cortisol drops. The immune system becomes more active. Digestion improves. The cardiovascular system calms. Growth and healing are promoted. There is something profoundly moving about this, if you sit with it for a moment. Your body was designed with the assumption that you would not face life alone. The biology of safety is deeply social. The parasympathetic state, the rest and restore state, is not just triggered by physical quiet and darkness. It is triggered powerfully by the presence of other living beings who are signaling that they are safe to be near, by a familiar voice, by a warm tone, by the particular quality of a face that is open and at ease, by being in the presence of others who are themselves calm, because that calmness is itself a signal that there is no threat to respond to. This is why a gentle voice at night, like a partner murmuring before sleep, or the low, warm tone of an audiobook or a podcast, or perhaps a voice like this one, can have an effect on the nervous system that goes beyond the content of the words. The prosody of the voice, its warmth and rhythm and pace, engages the ventral vagal system directly. It tells the body, a person is nearby and they are calm and they are not afraid, and therefore perhaps there is nothing to be afraid of. It is also why, for many people who struggle with sleep, the silence of the night is paradoxically harder than having something gentle and human to listen to. The nervous system, scanning for social cues in the absence of any other information, can find the silence more alarming than the calm murmur of a familiar voice. The silence says, "I am alone. I have no information about whether the social environment is safe." The voice says, "Someone is here. They are calm. The environment is held." This channel, this particular practice of listening in the dark to slow, warm language about the science of the body, is not merely educational. It is, in a modest but real sense, a form of social engagement for the nervous system. The voice is a safety signal. The rhythm of the language is a safety signal. The darkness and the warmth of your bed and the slow pace of this telling. All of these together are speaking in the language your body understands. And your body, even now, is listening. There is one more thing to understand about what happens when the body finally receives the safety signal it has been waiting for. And that is this: sleep itself is a form of trust. Going to sleep, actually going to sleep, not lying in bed thinking, not scrolling or distracting yourself into unconsciousness, but genuinely surrendering to sleep, is one of the most vulnerable things a human being can do. You lose voluntary control of your body. Your consciousness retreats. You become, for several hours, completely defenseless. And your nervous system knows this. From an evolutionary perspective, sleep required safety. Animals that slept in genuinely dangerous environments didn't last long. Sleep evolved, in part, as something that organisms did when they had enough of a sense of security to allow themselves that vulnerability. The specific physiological conditions that accompany the deepest stages of sleep, the complete muscular relaxation of REM sleep, the slowed breathing and heart rate of deep non-REM sleep, are only accessible when the sympathetic nervous system is sufficiently quiescent. When the threat detection system is at least somewhat standing down. This is why sleep is disrupted by stress and trauma. Not just because anxious thoughts keep you awake, though they certainly can, but because the nervous system, operating on its most ancient logic, determines that the level of threat in the environment is too high to allow the full vulnerability of deep sleep. Keeps you in lighter stages. Keeps one ear open, metaphorically speaking. It does not fully trust the night. And yet, this is what makes the relationship between safety and sleep so important. The reverse is also true. Sleep, when it does occur and when it is deep, is one of the most powerful signals of safety that the body can experience. Because the act of sleeping deeply sends information back through the system. You survived. You were vulnerable and nothing happened. The night was safe. The brain and the body can update their threat assessment accordingly, slightly. The nervous system can afford to recalibrate. This is why sleep deprivation makes anxiety worse. It is not only that a tired brain is less able to regulate its emotions, though that is real. It is also that a body deprived of the experience of genuine rest is deprived of the repeated confirmation that it is safe to let go. Each night of deep sleep is, in a small but real way, a lesson for the nervous system, piece of evidence, a data point in favor of the possibility that safety is real and available. What happens in those hours of deep sleep? When the body has finally received the signal it was waiting for. The first few hours of deep non-REM sleep, what sleep scientists call slow-wave sleep, are dominated by the release of growth hormone from the pituitary gland. This is the most significant pulse of growth hormone in the 24-hour cycle for most adults. Growth hormone is the master hormone of cellular repair. It drives protein synthesis. It supports the healing of tissues. It aids in muscle repair and regeneration. Plays a role in immune cell production. The body literally uses these hours to rebuild what was worn down during the day. During sleep, the brain's glymphatic system, a recently discovered waste clearance network that operates through channels surrounding the brain's blood vessels, becomes dramatically more active. The brain actually shrinks slightly during sleep, creating more space for cerebrospinal fluid to flow through these channels and flush out the metabolic byproducts that accumulate during waking hours. Among the substances cleared in this way are proteins associated with neurodegenerative diseases, including the amyloid beta proteins that, when they accumulate, are associated with Alzheimer's disease. Every night, given sufficient sleep depth and duration, your brain performs a kind of housekeeping that it cannot adequately perform while awake. At the cellular level, sleep is when DNA repair is most active. During the waking hours, the normal processes of cellular metabolism create oxidative stress, the production of reactive molecules called free radicals that can damage DNA and cellular components. Sleep is when the body's antioxidant systems are most fully deployed. When the cells repair the damage of the day. When the telomeres, the protective caps on the ends of chromosomes that shorten with each cellular division and serve as a biological marker of cellular aging, receive their maintenance. Chronic sleep deprivation has been associated with accelerated telomere shortening, literally with aging faster at the cellular level. The immune system performs some of its most important work during sleep. Cytokines, small proteins that coordinate the immune response, are produced and deployed during sleep. T cells, which are central to the adaptive immune response, become more effective at fighting infection during sleep. The fever response, which is one of the body's most powerful tools for fighting infection, tends to peak during sleep, not by accident but because the biological conditions of deep sleep, including the drop in core body temperature, create an environment that the immune system uses advantageously. And in the final hours of sleep, during the long stretches of REM sleep that occur predominantly in the early morning, the brain is doing something equally essential but more mysterious feeling. It is processing, consolidating, moving information from short-term storage into long-term memory, making connections between disparate pieces of experience, integrating the emotional content of the day in ways that, over time, reduce the sharp edge of difficult experiences. Research suggests that REM sleep may play a particular role in emotional processing, that the brain, during this stage, revisits emotionally charged memories while the neurochemical environment is such that the emotional charge can be somewhat reduced. This is one of the mechanisms by which time, and specifically sleep-rich time, heals emotional wounds. All of this happens in a body that has felt safe enough to sleep. All of this is on offer every single night to a body that has received the signal it is waiting for. You are still here, and something over the course of this hour has perhaps been shifting. Not dramatically, not in a way that you could point to and name with certainty, but something perhaps in the quality of your breathing, something in the weight of your limbs, something in the very subtle loosening of whatever it is that you carry, in your jaw, in your throat, in the muscles of your shoulders and upper back, in the quiet tension around your eyes. There is something worth sitting with before the words run out entirely and the silence takes over. You have traveled in the course of this listening through the landscape of your own biology. You have visited the brainstem, where the ancient circuits that evaluate threat and safety make their ceaseless calculations. You have followed the vagus nerve, that long, wandering, extraordinary nerve, all the way from its origin in the medulla oblongata down through your chest and into your abdomen. You have met the amygdala in its role as the body's smoke detector, and you have understood something about why it is sensitive, why it is sometimes oversensitive, and what it would need to learn a different calibration. You have moved through the chemistry of fear and the chemistry of restoration, cortisol and adrenaline and oxytocin and growth hormone, and you have understood something of what each of these molecules does in the body when it is present and in what proportions. And you have understood, perhaps more viscerally than you did before, that the difficulty many people have with rest is not a failure of willpower, not a moral failing, not evidence of weakness or dysfunction or something fundamentally wrong. It is the body behaving precisely as it was designed to behave in the presence of signals that suggest vigilance is warranted. The body protecting itself. The body refusing to go offline while the threat detector still shows amber. There is something that ought to be said here, quietly and without flourish, about what it means to finally understand your own nervous system this way. Understanding does not instantly change the nervous system's calibration. The amygdala does not become less sensitive because you have read about the amygdala. The cortisol does not drop because you know what cortisol is. The body updates through experience, not through knowledge alone. And yet knowledge is not without its own kind of power. Because when you understand what your body is doing and why, when you can locate the biology behind the experience rather than simply experiencing it as failure, something shifts. The suffering around the experience often decreases, even when the experience itself hasn't fully changed. The relentlessness of the question, "What is wrong with me?" can give way, in the presence of genuine understanding, to something quieter. This is what my body learned. And with that shift comes the possibility of compassion for your body, for your history, for the version of you that developed this particular calibration in response to whatever it was you were living through at the time. Compassion, it turns out, is itself a signal to the nervous system, the internal voice that speaks kindly, that does not condemn the body for its responses, that meets the vigilance with understanding rather than frustration. That voice activates something. The parasympathetic system is more accessible in the presence of warmth, whether that warmth comes from outside or from within. The vagus nerve responds to the quality of your relationship with yourself as much as it responds to the quality of your relationships with others. This is the slow work, the work that happens not in a single night but over many nights. Not in a single insight but in the accumulation of insights. Not in one moment of safety but in the gradual, imperfect, irregular building of a history in which safety has been experienced often enough that the nervous system can begin to afford to trust it. Tonight is one night of that work. This listening is one small addition to that accumulation. And in the morning, whenever it comes, there will be a version of you that is slightly different from the one that lay down here in the dark. Not dramatically, not measurably in any obvious external sense, but different in the way that every night of genuine rest makes a difference. Slightly repaired, slightly restored, slightly more convinced by the body's own evidence that rest is real and available. That is enough. That is, in fact, more than enough. Because healing of this kind is not a dramatic event. It is an accumulation of small enough moments that any single one of them is almost invisible, but gathered together across a life, across the many nights of listening and the many mornings of waking, across the slow recalibration of a nervous system that is doing its best with the information it has, they become something. They become a life lived with slightly less bracing against the next thing. Slightly more capacity to stay soft when the world invites hardness. Slightly more access to the wide, open, rested state that is your birthright as a creature who was always meant to know the difference between night and day, danger and safety, winter and spring. You have not been told to relax. You have not been instructed to let go. You have been given something different. Information. The kind of information that reaches not just the conscious mind but something deeper. The kind of information that, if it is received honestly and without resistance, can begin to do something quiet and irreversible. It can tell the body that it is understood. This is, perhaps, the most important thing that understanding the science of safety can offer. Not a technique, not a fix, not a solution to the very real difficulties of very real lives, but something that might precede all of those things. The sense that what your body has been doing all this time, the vigilance and the scanning and the bracing and the difficulty letting go, was not wrong. It was not dysfunction. It was not weakness. It was the body doing its job faithfully and with everything it had, in conditions that sometimes made that job very hard. Your nervous system has been trying to keep you safe. The amygdala that fires too easily, the cortisol that lingers too long, the shoulders that won't fully drop, the mind that won't fully quiet. All of it has been, in its way, an act of loyalty to your survival. The body learned what it learned from the environments it inhabited, from the relationships it navigated, from the moments when the world was unpredictable or unkind or genuinely threatening. It adapted. It recalibrated. It set its threat threshold at whatever level the evidence of its experience suggested was appropriate. And now you are here in the dark, in a quiet room, in a body that is lying down and breathing slowly and listening to a voice that is not trying to alarm it. And the evidence of this moment, this particular set of sensory inputs, is being received. Your nervous system is listening. It is always listening. And what it is hearing right now, through the quality of the air in the room, through the temperature of the blanket or the bed, through the rhythm of this voice and the pace of these words, through the gradual, almost imperceptible slowing of your own breathing as you have moved through these past hours of listening. What it is hearing is something that resembles an answer to its oldest question. Is it safe here? The answer in this room, in this body, in this moment is yes. Or if not quite yet, if there is still some part of you that has not fully received that signal, then at least safer than it was. And perhaps that is enough. Perhaps that is, in fact, exactly where sleep begins. Not in certainty, but in sufficient evidence. In enough data to begin to lower the guard. In the small, repeated demonstrations that the night is holding you, that the dark is not dangerous, that the quiet is, in fact, quiet. Not the silence before something terrible, but the silence after everything necessary has been done. Your heart is beating, slowing, perhaps, by a few beats per minute as the vagus nerve does its gentle, faithful work. Your gut is settling. Your immune system is doing what it was designed to do in the hours of darkness. Somewhere in your brainstem, in structures that have been performing this function since long before there were words for any of it, the balance is shifting. The sympathetic system is losing its grip incrementally, and the parasympathetic is taking over, not with force, but with the patient inevitability of a tide. The breathing slows, the muscles soften. The mind, which has been processing and integrating and understanding throughout this conversation, begins to release its grip on the need to follow, to comprehend, to keep up. It begins to drift, and the body, your body, which has been waiting, which has always been waiting for this particular configuration of signals, this particular quality of stillness and safety and surrender, your body begins to do what it was always designed to do. It rests, it repairs, it grows. It moves through the first quiet hour of deep sleep, where growth hormone will be released into your bloodstream and tissues will begin their subtle, extraordinary work of renewal. It will move through cycles of dreaming where the events of your life will be processed and integrated and, over time, gently metabolized into something your nervous system can carry more lightly. It will perform, in the dark, the full catalog of restorative operations that a body requires and deserves after a day of existing in the world. And in the morning, there will be a version of you that has been repaired at least slightly by the night. A version of you that carries a little less of the residue of yesterday. A version of you whose nervous system has received, once again, the small but real data point that the night was survivable, that safety is real, that the body can be trusted with rest. You do not have to try to sleep now. Trying is the opposite of the direction you are headed. You only have to let the body do what it already knows how to do. It has been doing it in one form or another for all the years of your life. Through every night you have survived, through every dawn you have arrived at, through every morning when you have woken, however imperfectly rested, to find that the night had passed and you were still here. You are still here. The room is quiet. The night is long. And somewhere in the deep architecture of your biology, in circuits that evolved over millions of years to find safety in the dark, something has received the signal it was waiting for. Can let go now. So can you. Thank you for listening. If tonight felt like something, if some part of this reached whatever part of you needed reaching, please take a moment if you feel moved to leave a comment, or simply to save this episode for another night when you need it, or to share it with someone you know who carries their vigilance with them into the dark. If you are new to deep science sleep, there is more waiting for you here. We explore the science of the body and the mind in the quiet hours, in the hope that understanding might be its own form of rest. If this channel has been a companion to you in the dark, and you would like it to continue, please consider subscribing. It costs you nothing, and it makes it possible for this kind of content to keep finding the people who need it. Sleep well. You have earned it. And your body, which has been waiting for this, which has always known how, is ready.